Moving objects is very simple. If I just want to move this rectangle some distance, a specific distance, I can select that rectangle, use the move command M, and then I can put my mouse anywhere and click anywhere and move the mouse in the direction that I want this object to move. So I don't have to click on the object as the starting point. I can move it a specific distance, so all I need to do is move my mouse in the direction I want it to go and type the distance that I want the object to move. So I'll type here 120 for 120 inches. So that just moved that rectangle 120 inches in the direction that I moved the mouse. Undo that. We can move several objects at once, so I can select these and do the same thing. We'll do move command M, and we can move these again, say 120 inches, 10 feet. We can start the move command first. So this, when we do that, we start the command first and then pick the items. That's called post picking. When you select the items first before you enter the command, that's pre-picking. So this is post-picking. We'll do the move command first, and you see that it asks you to select the objects. What are the objects that we want to move? Let's select that one and that one. You see I selected them separately. I didn't have to do that. I can select them at the same time. After I've selected the objects now, when I'm post-picking, now I have to hit enter again, or spacebar. And now it asks me to enter the base point. I click to enter a base point, and I move the mouse in the direction I want to go again, and type the distance I want to move them. Let's do the same thing, 120 inches there. So that's the difference between pre-picking and post-picking. Now that was using an arbitrary distance and not snapping to anything. We can use the move command along with the snaps, the O snaps, to move an object exactly where we want to go. So say I want to align the rectangle, this corner of the rectangle, the bottom left corner of the rectangle, with the left point, the exact left point of the circle here. I can do that by selecting the rectangle, issue the move command, and now my base point will be that corner of the rectangle. You see the default, when I rolled this, the default O snap it found was the perpendicular. If I actually want to specify that exact point, I can cycle through the O snaps using the tab key until it actually gets me the end point. That's exactly what I want to snap to. So I'll click there. And so now I've picked up the rectangle on that end point. And my destination point will be that node, which is the quadrant, which is a diamond. And I can just click right there. If we do the same thing or similar thing with the circle, we can move the circle and say perhaps we want to align the center of the circle. So I'll first hover over the edge of the circle a little bit until it gives me the opportunity to snap to the center with the center O snap. Click there on that center O snap. And let's say I want to snap it to that quadrant there. And very similarly, if I want to move this object and say I want to snap this point right there where it transitions between a straight segment and an arc, if I want to snap that to some point on this other rectangle, we can also do that. Move command, and I will hover over an endpoint. That's an endpoint there. Click there, and maybe we want to move this to snap to the midpoint of that rectangle. Command works very similarly to the move command. If I want to copy this rectangle, I can just select it first, or that's a pre-pick. I can also post-pick with the copy command. Issue the copy command CO, spacebar. Again, I can, if I want, don't have a predefined start point or endpoint, I can just click anywhere, an empty space, move the mouse the direction I want to make the copy. Let's say I want to move it straight up here, and 20 feet away, I will type 240 for 240 inches, enter. Now you see that the copy command stays active. It lets you make as many copies as you want. If I wanted to make another one 120 inches over here, I have to enter actually 240 to get it at the proper place. Again, 240. So the copy command is very similar to the move command. It works very much the same way, but there are some additional interesting options. So we'll do the copy command on some of these objects. So let's pre-select, pre-pick the rectangle and do the copy command CO, spacebar. And again, we can just click anywhere and move the mouse in the direction that we want the copy to appear. Say we want it straight to the right side. Let's do 120 inches again for 10 feet. Okay. And now you can see that the copy command is still active, so I can continue making additional copies. Now the thing is, if I wanted to say make another one, another 120 inches, another 10 feet away, I actually have to. It's from the starting point. It's still from the base, the initial base point that I clicked. So if I wanted another copy, say around here, I have to type in, instead of 120, now I have to type in 240. Right? The copy command is still active, so I could make as many copies as I want in a bunch of different directions if I wanted. So if I want to say go straight down, put a rectangle on top of the circle, I can say, I'm not sure how far that is, but we'll guess maybe it's about 12 feet, so I'll enter 144 inches there. Right? To end the copy command, I just hit spacebar or enter or escape. And similarly, with the copy command, I can snap. So if I wanted to copy this rectangle so that the midpoint here, you can see I hover over that and it gives me a green triangle for the midpoint of the snap, is aligned to the center of the circle, I can do that as well. Hit enter to stop the copy command. The copy command also has a very interesting, very useful option to create an array. And so what you can do is go ahead and start the copy command as usual. Start moving your mouse, click to define the base point, and as soon as you do that, an option appears for array. You can see that down here. And so what I can do is just type A to an array, and it asks you here, you can see, enter number of items in array. I'll say I want 4 items. And so already it sets up a bunch of equally spaced copies here. And so I can enter in the distance that I want between each of these, and we'll say, we'll go ahead and say 240 240 inches. So it's still active, copy command is still active. It has reset the array option though, so right now I'm only getting one copy. Zoom out a little bit and see that. Okay, and now I'll end the copy command by hitting spacebar. So the copy command just made 4 total objects. So that 4 quantity that I entered included the very first one. And they're all a distance of 120 inches apart, or 240, I cannot remember. But they're all equally spaced according to what the value was that we entered. Command might need some getting used to and a little bit of practice. The thing to know is that AutoCAD, when you enter in angles, it graphically using the mouse, it has a very particular way of doing that, where 0 degrees is straight to the right x-axis, 90 degrees is straight up, 180 degrees is straight to the left, 270 degrees is straight down. So if we want to rotate this rectangle, we can select it, we can pre-pick it, we can also post-pick it. I'll do RO for rotate, enter. And say we want to rotate it around this bottom right point. I'll roll over that to get the endpoint no snap. Click to set that base point. Now it asks me, you see that it asks me specify rotation angle or enter a degree. So when you can do it, you see that when I start moving the mouse, it's already rotating it. And if I hold down the Shift key to break out of my ortho mode, you can see that I have the opportunity to rotate this sort of freely as I want. Something I can also do while I'm doing this is I can rotate this so that I snap to something. So maybe I want to snap to the center of the circle here, like that, so that this, this now points to the center of the circle. If we wanted to do this similarly and rotate it so that this line, now that we have this, maybe we didn't want that, maybe we want this line at the bottom of the rectangle to point at the center of the circle. I pre-pick the rectangle, issue the rotate command, RO. It asks me to specify the base point. Click on the rotation center, that endpoint. Now what I can do is use the reference option, R. So I'll type R to enter the reference option. And what it asks me for is specify the reference angle. What is the starting angle? The starting angle is this angle that's given by this initial thing that I want to line up. So I'll start clicking that first point of the first thing I want to line up, and then a second point of the thing I want to line up. Now it's saying specify the new angle that you want those 2 points to line up to. If we want to line them up to point to this center point, I'll hover over that, pick up the O-snap, and click on it. So now it rotated the rectangle around that point using the reference that was determined by clicking on the 2 endpoints of this, and finally rotating them both so that they point at a certain angle, which was the center of the circle, the O-snap there. The rotate command can also create copies. So say we want to rotate this object and create a few copies of it. Select it, do the rotate command, and say I want to rotate around the center of the circle. I can click on that as the base point, and you can see now I can rotate this around freely around that circle. It also has a copy function. So say I want to rotate this object at the bottom here around the center of the circle. Select that object first. I'll issue the rotate command, RO, spacebar. It asks me to specify the base point. So if we want the center of the circle to be the base point, I'll roll over the circle, the edge of it, until I can pick up the center O-snap, click there, and here now you can see that it's going to rotate copy of this, or sorry, rotate this around the center. And if I do want to make copies, I have to type C for copy. I'll hit C right here now in the command prompt. And so now you see when I move the mouse freely, it doesn't ghost out the original in gray, it still leaves it in the cyan color, meaning we're making a copy. So I can move this any arbitrary amount that I want. Say I want to rotate this 60 degrees, I can just type 60 degrees now, 60, and there's a copy, a rotated copy around the center of the circle. I can do it again using a reference as well to get an exact rotation. So if we say we want to rotate this to align the midpoint of this side so that it's aligned with, say, this endpoint of the circle, or sorry, the rectangle, and we'll rotate it around the center of the circle here again. I'll show you how to do that. RO, space, okay, specify base point. We're going to do the center of the circle again. Click there. And in this case, like before when we were rotating the rectangle, we'll use a reference. And so I need to hit the R key. We'll click there. My reference will be from the center of the circle there to the midpoint of that side. Triangle, OSNAP is the midpoint. Click there. Okay. And now, I'm not making a copy in this case, but let's see if we can just click to align to that endpoint there. So it kept the distance from that center point and basically aligned it so that when we rotated this from around that point to the midpoint, it aligned with that endpoint of the rectangle. And we could have used the copy option as well to do that, to leave the original in its place. Command is one of the best ways to extend a segment and make sure that it retains the same angle. If we wanted to extend this line segment to this object, well, we could do that by grabbing the grip here and pulling on it and trying to find exactly where it intersects and zoom in as much as we can and try to, make that intersection. But there isn't a snap that'll do that automatically. Well, there is, but it's not I don't recommend using it. So what we can do is use the extend command instead. So what I'm going to do is not pre-pick, I'm going to post-pick with the extend command. EX is the extend command, so I'll issue that first in order to do a post-pick. Now it asks me select object to extend, or shift select to trim. So you'll see that if you use the shift key, there's a interrelationship between the extend command and the trim command, but we're just doing the extend command. So it says select object to extend. I want to select extend this object, so all I have to do is roll over that, and it gives me a preview, and click, and there AutoCAD has figured out exactly where that to extend that line segment to. The extend command is still active, so I can continue to extend it to other objects. Roll over, click, roll over, and click. So there I've just extended that line segment all the way to the opposite edge of the ellipse here. And now that I'm done, I'll hit spacebar to end the extend command. The extend command, let's do that. The extend command works on any open-ended object. So that was a line segment. Now here is a single open-ended polyline. It'll work on both ends of that polyline as well. So we'll, again, do a post-pick method. Extend command first. Now when we roll over one end here, it'll extend to the closest target. You'll see that it picks the closest target and it'll automatically give you the preview there. Click there again, and maybe you want to extend it all the way there. We can continue without having to restart the extend command by doing the opposite end if we want it as well. You'll see that if I do the extend command, if there's nothing to extend to, the extend command gives me a little null symbol. Or if I roll over something that can't be extended, like an enclosed object, like an ellipse here, I can't extend anything there either. So we have to end the command. Also very quickly extend multiple objects. So say I want to extend these two endpoints to a target. I can do the extend command again. I'm going to postpick, do the command first. And now it says select object to extend. What I can do is I can simply click someplace and pass a line through what I want to extend, and I can do more than one object. So I can do all three endpoints here all at once. And then if I want to extend these two further, the extend command is still active, I can do them again. And you can see it actually finds sort of an intersection here. Maybe you want that, maybe you don't. Maybe you just want to extend that, continue that. Maybe we want to extend these two all the way to the far side, draw a line through those two endpoints there. Similar to the extend command, we'll do postpick methodology. So we'll issue the trim command first. TR is the shortcut. And I can roll over anything where there are intersecting items. These items have to intersect in order for a trim to occur. So you see that it finds the segment that's between the intersections and gives you a preview of what's going to be trimmed. So perhaps I want to trim these two segments here. I can draw a line through those. It gives me the preview, and that's called a fence that I'm drawing. That line is called a fence. Click and it's done. Maybe I want to trim this end off. I can just go through that and be left with that. I can, anywhere there's an intersection, I can draw a fence or select an item to trim between or beyond an intersection. So you saw that with this, if there's an intersection there and I want to trim on one side, I can do that, and it trims to the next edit point, the next grip point of an object. So remember, this was one polyline. It'll trim automatically to where the endpoints of the polyline are. If you're familiar with the fillet command in Rhino, the fillet command in AutoCAD will be very familiar. It allows you to join together two line segments. And for example, we'll hit the fillet command, which is F is the shortcut. And the default way that fillet will join is by just bringing things together right at a point. So I can select right near the endpoint of this line segment there. And now it asks me select second object. And why don't we select near the endpoint of this? And you see it gives a preview. And if I click, it brings them together and joins them. It doesn't actually join them, but it makes them touch right at a point. We can do it with lines that are at different angles. So I'll just hit space to repeat the command, the fillet command. Again, the shortcut is F. It's asked me for select first object, so I'll select this one here. Now, if I were to select this line, there are two ways I can do it. I can select near this end or this end, and that'll change how the fillet command creates the fillet. If I roll over this end, you see it gives me a preview of that sharp angle. If we undo that and do it again, fillet command, let's do this one. If I roll over this end and select near here, it gives the obtuse angle. And so you can see that the fillet will extend, and also, if we take a look over here, it will trim lines that are already connected. So if we take a look at this one, let's zoom in a little bit. We'll use the fillet command here and say we select this one, and why don't we select here then? And you see it trims away the rest of those objects. The fillet command can also be used to create radius connections between objects. Zoom in here a little bit. And so the way to do that is we'll do the fillet command, F. And before we select anything, we can select the radius option. So you see down here in the bottom, there is a radius option, and all we have to do to get that is type R space. And it asks us specify fillet radius. And why don't we specify something like a radius of, say, 5. That would be 5 inches. Hit enter. And now we go and do the same thing that we did before. We select the 2 endpoints, and we roll over this one, and there is, it's a little small, but that's a radius of 5. We can, if we don't like that, we can redo it, fillet. Maybe we want a larger radius. Why don't we try a radius of, say, 20 inches? Enter 20 after hitting the R option. And we'll do this again. We'll hit that one, and we'll click on that one. And I think that the radius was too large, actually. So let's try this. Let's try it again. We'll do a radius of 10. And we'll select that one. And now let's roll over this one and see, and there. Okay. So when we did that, it left that original curve there. And we don't want that, so we can just select that and delete it. Actually, there are 2 on top of each other. Managed to do the command twice. All right, so that's how the fillet command can help you join together different line segments, and it extends and trims them so that they meet each other. And so here's another example. You can see that the fillet command uses the same, or keeps the radius. If I have a radius already set, it keeps it for subsequent uses of the fillet command. There's another thing to point out here, which I just did. You see that this final object here is a polyline, whereas when I was doing this previously with these objects, when I filleted them, they did not connect together as a single polyline. And that is because, and I'll undo this, because if you use the fillet command on a polyline to begin with, which is what this is, the result will be a polyline. If you start with items that are individual or non-polylines, just segments, they remain individual objects. Right? So we can fillet these again, say, or fillet these 2 individual objects, say with a radius, when we say fillet radius, and maybe we'll do a radius of 15 inches. We'll say this one and that one. Whoops, missed it. There we go. And so now you see here, because they were individual objects to begin with, they're still individual objects. Right? But then if we fillet these 2 items together, right, and this first one that I'm picking is a polyline. The final object, again here, I'll just select that, is a single polyline. Chamfer command is similar to the fillet command. So if we did a fillet of radius 0, I'll make sure to check that, okay, and we filleted this line and that line, of course they come to a point with a radius of 0. If we do the chamfer command on those 2 segments now, CHA is the shortcut, what we should do first is check the settings, and you see down here it says current chamfer distance 1 is half an inch, distance 2 is half an inch. What does that means is it's the distance from the intersection, how far away back away from the intersection these two objects will be connected with a line, a straight line. So let's I'm going to change the distance by using D. You can see that's one of the options here. So I'll do distance, and it says specify first chamfer distance. Right now it's set at half an inch. I'll do it 10 feet. We'll exaggerate it. 10 feet, which is 120 inches. It asks for the second one. They can be different. Normally you don't make them different. Normally you do them the same, but so we'll keep it the same for now, and just to demonstrate. And it asks me select first line. I'll select this one first, and then select second line, and we'll select this one. And so you can see what it did was it cut back from the point 10 feet on each one of those lines and connected them with a straight line. Let's do that again. Let's do chamfer, and let's change the distance here to